Hello everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the Samsung Galaxy S23 FE and see how this particular phone holds up in 2024. Now, I will definitely tell you between the Samsung Galaxy S23 FE, it was a good phone. I liked it when it first came out and it's still, very much worth it in a lot of different ways. It's not necessarily the most perfect phone of all time, but I like this phone a lot, and I definitely do think this is a very, very good device when it comes down to it. But there may be some other phones I'd recommend buying this year, and I'll leave all these phones linked down in the description below. So you can get them from there, and you can also support the channel at the same time. Now, starting off with the outside of the Samsung Galaxy S23 FE, on the front side of this particular phone, you're getting a 6.4-inch dynamic AMOLED display. This is a very, very decent panel for what you're getting on this particular phone. It's a 1080p panel, so full HD, 120Hz, and I'll tell you, it's a good looking phone, right? I like the way this particular phone looks like. It's not necessarily like the most perfect phone of all time, but I do think this is something that's actually really, really nice going on for this particular device because it is a good display. My only gripe with this particular phone is that there's considerably more bezel around it than the Samsung Galaxy S21 FE. So the S21 FE was, I love that phone. I love the S21 FE. Was a very, very good phone when it comes down to it. But this one, the S23 FE, kind of gave us like a little bit of a different experience, which was kind of a problem. It reminded me way more of like the Galaxy A series, and that was kind of the more annoying thing that was kind of going on with this particular device. So it's not the biggest deal in the world, but it did seem kind of like a downgrade when I was going from my previous phone to this one. Like I kind of felt like they were kind of giving us a little bit of a downgrade with this particular device when it came down to it. So not the biggest deal in the world. I can talk about it all day, but that was just one thing that kind of spoke out to me there. On the bottom, you're getting a USB Type-C port, which is great. Flat sides all around it, which is still very nice as well. There's not really too much, else kind of going on with this particular phone that we haven't already seen before. Just a little bit, tiny bit more of a bezel, I would say, compared to the S21 FE. On the back side, you're getting this standard glass back, which I like. I like these standard glass backs. It was an upgrade coming from the frosted plastic back that we were getting on the previous phone. So that was something that was also very, very concerning a little bit, the fact that we were just getting a standard type of glass back like that. But, still this glass back is better than the frosted, plastic back we were getting before. So this in and of itself is a very, very nice thing going on for this particular device when it comes down to it. You're getting wireless charging, reverse wireless charging, lots and lots of good stuff on this particular phone, which I'm very, very happy about. And I'll definitely tell you, like, if I'm going through getting any sort of device, this is something like, this is a really good looking phone that I've liked a lot, throughout the last couple of years, since the last year it's been out. So it gets a thumbs up for me. I'm a fan of it. There's definitely not really too many issues with this phone when it comes down to it. So that right there is a very, very big thing to keep in mind. Now, on top of that, with this particular phone, the price tag of this phone has gone down significantly since it first came out. So when this phone first came out, as you probably would have expected, it was, several $100s more than what it's available in the used market for. Right now, you can buy it on Amazon for around $300-ish. That's actually a very, very decent price to pay for a phone like this. This is not the most expensive phone of all time. It's a fairly cheap one when it kind of comes down to it. And I do think this in and of itself is a very, very nice thing going on for this particular phone. The fact that you don't have to spend like insane amounts of money on this particular device for that particular standpoint. So I think this in and of itself is a very, very cool thing going on for this particular device when it comes down to it as well. So this phone, again, when it kind of comes down to it, on the outside with the price tag and everything, it's pretty decent. It's a pretty good phone when it comes down to it there too. And I do think if you're going to go through and buy any sort of device, this is actually a pretty decent one when it comes down to it. It's a fairly decent priced phone. On top of that, with the outside, with the camera side in particular, you're getting this triple camera setup on the back side. It's a 50 megapixel wide, 8 megapixel telephoto, and then a 12 megapixel ultra wide camera. And on the front side, you're getting this 10 megapixel wide angle lens. Now, it's actually a pretty good camera. It's a really great camera, to be honest. It's not better than the Galaxy S24 or S23, but it's a good camera. It's actually fairly decently reliable of a camera. On the front, you can do 4K at 60. On the back, you can do 4K at 60, and you can even do 8K capability on the back of this particular phone, which is amazing. I love having these types of phones with this type of capability, and this is a very, very nice thing going on for this particular device. It's a very good phone from that particular perspective. I will say though, still to this day, one of the bigger problems with Samsung phones, that Samsung kind of fixed with the latest generation, is the fact that some social media applications don't really handle the best. So this can be kind of one of the bigger problems that you're getting with one of these types of devices, is the fact that these phones aren't really giving you like the best type of capability, but from the social media apps. But beyond that, I don't think it's that big of a deal. And you're still getting a really, really good phone with a really good, camera quality for the most part. And there's a lot of stuff built into this camera too that's actually very amazing as well. Like you're able to go through, get a very solid camera, which is actually very decent. And I like that a lot about these particular devices. So take it as you will, but if I'm going through and getting some sort of a device, I like the fact that both these phones are giving you very, very good capability and quality from that standpoint alone. So this in and of itself is another very nice thing and a very good feature going on for the Samsung Galaxy S23 FE for sure. Moving on, another big thing going on for these particular phones is the fact that these phones are giving you pretty long-lasting software. It's not going to be as long as an iPhone. It's not going to be as long as a Pixel of that year, but it's going to be good enough for the most part. And I do think that's another really cool, nice thing going on for these particular devices as well. Like you don't really have to worry about these phones giving you like a weird software experience, or like you buying this phone this year and it being outdated this year. It's probably going to last like another 2 years, if you buy it this year. So that's going to be very nice. And that's something I like a lot about these particular devices, that you can just go ahead and buy them and like just kind of have a good experience regardless. So this in and of itself is a very, very cool thing going on here. And I do think this in and of itself is a super nice thing going on for these particular devices as well. Another thing is the performance. These phones, the S23 FEs, are basically giving you some pretty solid experience. They're giving you that Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 chipset inside with 8GB of RAM. Now that 8 Gen 1 chipset, it really wasn't the best performing chipset of all time, and there was some issues with this, some throttling issues and all that stuff. But I would say for the most part, you were getting a fairly solid experience with this type of device, which is something that was very, very cool. And if you were going through and getting a phone that was still supported with software, this thing is a very decent, option. And like I said before, I think this is a very, very decent performing phone when it kind of comes down to it. With its 8GB of RAM, with its chipset, it's not as fast as the S24, but it's still very, very much close to, it's just as fast as the S22. And I do think this, again, in and of itself, is a very nice thing going on for these particular devices. With something like the Samsung Galaxy S23 FE, this type of device is giving you, very good performance. And whether you're in small applications, big applications, as you can see on the screen, it's giving you a pretty decent experience regardless. So I definitely do think that in and of itself is another very nice thing going on for this particular phone when it comes down to it. And the battery life of this phone is also another really nice feature. A 4500 mAh battery is very good. That's a very good size battery to have inside of a device like this. And I think that in and of itself is another super, super cool thing going on for this particular phone when it comes down to it as well. So to kind of sum it up, what I'll definitely tell you, I'll say I really like the Samsung Galaxy S23 FE. I just wish the design wasn't the way it was. I wish it looked a little bit nicer. But regardless, I think it is still a very, very good device. And I do think there's a lot of reasons why something like the S23 FE is still a decent phone to pick up. But if you want to swing for the actual phones, I'd recommend swinging for the actual Galaxy S23 or the actual Galaxy S22, or even buying something like the Google Pixel 7 or Google Pixel 8. I think those devices are probably going to be overall better. But regardless, they're very good phones. I like them a lot, and you can't really go wrong with either one of these devices. So in terms of that kind of covers it up here. If you have any other thoughts or questions, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that'll mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.